Before we get started, can you please subscribe to our YouTube channel and click the alert notification to get our latest content?
Hello everyone, it's Brian from Home Painters. I'm absolutely thrilled to bring you our next video, and what it is on is how much it costs to paint a typical 3,000 square foot house in the Toronto GTA area and how long it'll take. And I'm going to talk about other things on the video as well, as not just how much it costs, but what affects the costs, how long it takes, and what you should look for in a painter. So I've been, by the way, Brian Young from Home Painters, Toronto. We've been doing this now for 33 years. Painted about 17,000 square feet home over the years, and we'd love to get content to help our clients make decisions and help them with their homeowner needs. And we do this minimum once a month. And if you like what you see, subscribe to the channel as well as click like, and we'd love to hear from you, any comments as well. So I'm going to get right into things. 3,000 square foot home. Let's base this on walls first. And 3,000 square foot, by the way, a typical 3,000 square foot house is bigger than normal. So I'm going to just kind of get into the general pricing ranges so you know what you're looking at. So this gives you a rough idea of what you should budget for if you were to hire a professional painter in Toronto. The walls, you're starting at about $2.2 to $2.5 per square foot to about $3 per square foot. So I've done the math up front. It looks at roughly $6,700 to as high as $9,000. For your trim and doors, which is your baseboards, door frames, window frames, you're looking at about 0.75 to 1.25 per square foot. And doing the math, it came out to about $2,200 roughly on the low end and $3,700 on the higher end. Okay. Ceilings, depends on stucco or flat ceilings, came to roughly 0.5 or 50 cents per square foot to as high as 0.75 or 75 cents a square foot. Do the math, it comes to roughly $1,500 to $2,200 for ceilings for a typical 3,000 interior square foot house. Closets are pretty universal amongst most size houses. So I ballpark them at about $75 per closet to as much as $150 to $175 per square foot. Sorry, per closet. So I'm just going to do a tally here for you. $6,700 for the walls for the low end, $2,200 on a low end, and $1,500 for a low end. And let's say 6 to 7, let's say eight closets. So we're going to go with $800. So you're looking at about $11,500 to do a typical 3,000 square foot house on the low end. And the high end, we're looking at about $9,000 for the walls, $3,700 for the trim and doors on the high end, $2,200 for the ceilings on the high end, and we'll go with another, let's say $800 for the closets. So you're looking at about $15,500. So 11 to 15, 16K. Give you a rough idea for a typical 3,000 square foot house, how much it costs to paint for a professional painter. And that includes material as well, of course. Now I'm going to talk about the furniture in terms of the effects of what causes this huge price range. And the first is going to be furniture and the amount of clutter. So if you can guarantee the painter there's not going to be as much furniture and clutter, chances are you're going to get a much better price as well. The other thing that might affect the cost of the amount of cost to paint your house as well is how soon you need it done and how fast you need it done. For example, if you need the job done right away, it's going to cost more, and as well as if you need it done fast, it's going to cost more, just because it's more resources the painter's using in terms of making sure it's set up fast as well as it's executed fast as well. So if you can give them a little more time to set it up, maybe 1 to 2 weeks, and then not rushing the painter as well to do the job as well, chances are it's going to be much favorable in terms of the pricing. The other thing that affects the price and what makes affects the price of what costs overall is the time of year. For example, in the winter, it's going to be a lot less than in the slow season. In the slow season than in the summer, which is the big season between May, June, and July and August. And the reason why is because obviously in the winter time we're just trying to pay bills, get the painters going. And in the summertime, it's like we're slammed and we're trying to execute on as many jobs as possible just to keep our clients happy. So keeping up with that is the harder thing in the summertime. So generally speaking, you're going to get a cheaper price if you go in the wintertime. The other thing that makes a difference is the size of the job. So for example, the unit size per job is going to be a lot more expensive if you just paint one room in that 3,000 square foot home as opposed to the whole main floor, hallways, and even some of the bedrooms. So the more you can do during that time, during that quote, ask the painter to include, the chances are you're going to get a better price that way as well. The other thing that makes a difference is the number of colors, and like, it's a big house, 3,000 square foot house. It's definitely bigger than the average in Toronto. But I would say if you keep it down to 5 or 6 or below, chances are you're going to get a better price than if you pick 6 plus. Usually the painter needs to charge you more just to compensate for the amount of paint and the amount of surcharge it costs and labor to keep going back and forth in between colors. So try to keep it to 5 or less. And if you can do even less than that, the chances are you're going to get a better price as well. The other thing, in my view, is making sure, by the way, these prices included the price of paint. Use top line paint, or at least the mid to higher end. And the reason why is because you paint your house every 5, 10, or 15 years. You want to make sure it's done with good paint so it doesn't fail, doesn't blister, it lasts, it doesn't smudge off, it doesn't bang up easily. So that's, we use Sherwin-Williams and Benjamin Moore, but you want to make sure that they've definitely used the better paint as well. Over cheap paint, which tends to scratch up really easily. It's much more prone to fail, so it's much better to use better paint. The other thing that makes a difference is payment terms. For example, if you go credit cards, it's going to be more expensive. Obviously, most credit card merchants charge between 2 and 3%. Then if you go check, cash, or e-transfers, it's much easier in terms of administratively for painters. So you're going to probably get a better price if you choose one of those 3 options versus a credit card. The other thing that the most obvious, and in terms of the time, is the amount of prep. The amount of prep really makes a huge difference on what it costs to paint a house and prep a house. And to give you an example, lath and plaster, guaranteed it's going to cost more right off the bat. So you want to make sure that, well, not make sure, but keep the budget a little higher if you got plaster home versus a drywall home, which is more of the newer way of doing putting up homes nowadays. Building homes is with drywall. It's cheaper. It's easier to fix, repairs. It tends to look better as well. So drywall, it's definitely going to be cheaper than lath and plaster. The other thing that makes a difference is new construction versus just doing a repaint. If you're doing a repaint, there's usually less prep involved than if it's new construction, just because there's less filling, sanding, caulking, priming, especially on the trim in particular. That's usually what eats up the time. So you're going to probably pay a higher price just because it's new construction, because there's more prep involved. The final thing is the difficulty of the job. For example, the heights, if there's accent walls, if there's specialty painting such as full finishes, wallpaper removal or installation costs more. Spraying costs more. If you're spraying cabinetry, that costs more. As I said, if you keep it brush and roll simple, it's less work for a painter. So in terms of getting going on the lower end of the pricing, you're going to get a better price if you go on to without those niche services. The other thing I'm going to talk about is the time involved. 3,000 square foot home is a fairly fair size home, but every painting company should have at least 3 to 4 painters or more. So in my view, 3,000 square foot house, you should have at least 3 painters there. 2 minimum, but probably 3 to 4 would be ideal. And so I wouldn't say it would take more than a week or less. And in an ideal situation, less than a week, but maximum 2 weeks. So 1 to 2 weeks maximum. Towards the latter of 1 week would be better. But the key is don't rush them. Obviously, make sure that you work within their time frame as well. Because as I said, you paint your house every 5, 10 years. You want to make sure it lasts. You want to make sure they're not rushing and cutting corners. So make sure that's, obviously that you do it in a reasonable amount of time as well. Things to look for in a painter. This is really important if you're hiring a painter. In my view, I've painted over 17,000 homes, so I've seen a lot. You want to make sure that they're responsive and they're reasonable in terms of that. So in other words, 48 hours or less, returning your calls, texts, or emails. Very reasonable, because obviously if they're not hungry to at least get you a price on time, then they're probably not going to be executing on the job. A lot of time they're too busy. they've just been overloaded, or maybe they've lost some of their key people and they just don't have the ability to execute on the business. So better to go to the next painter if they're not executing fast enough. That includes getting a quote on time too. My view, if they quote on the site, would be ideal. If they can't quote, 24 to 48 hours max. If they're not executing on that, then they're probably overloaded as well. The other things, you want to make sure they're fully insured and covered with all liability. So liability insurance, 5 million or above is ideal. WSIB, make sure they have their WSIB certificates. And criminal background checks is the cherry on the cake. So you want to make sure that they've criminal background checks on the guys. So you don't have to worry about, you can trust the guys inside the house, and you want to don't want to be babysitting them, obviously. The other thing you want to check out for is the years in business and track record. And how you can check that. Everyone can say, yeah, I've been painting for 10, 20 years, but how do you verify that? And you can just go online, go on HomeStars or Google and check the reviews and how far it goes back. You can look at the years, and if it's gone back 5 or 10 years, there's a good chance they've been around, and they'll be around, and they're there, going to be accountable, and they're there for you, and they're going to take care of you no matter what, which is the most important. You want to check their bad reviews, so how they respond. Everyone is no one's perfect, and is going to have some bad reviews, but how do they respond to those adverse situations is very telltale sign of who you want to be dealing with with a painter. The other is the most obvious, is gut feeling. Obviously, if you feel good, if they're taking care of you, they're there to take care of you from start to end, and you really feel that they're giving and they're trying in their time and efforts to take care of your needs when they're giving you a quote, then that usually says a lot. So use your gut feel, and if they're very careful in terms of making sure you get your information on time, returning texts on time, that makes a real huge difference. Okay, so hopefully this was really helpful in helping you get a cost and what to look for in a painter as well, how much time it takes to get the job done as well. If you like what you see, subscribe to our channel. Like I said, I do this usually once a month or more, and I love to take care of handle homeowners' needs, their questions, any of their concerns, and any things they're looking for in general. I'd like to address this in the talk as well, and as well as post any comments. Click the like button below, and we'd love to hear from you. If you want to call us directly, you can at sales@homepainterstoronto.com. You can also call me directly at 416-494-9095. Hopefully this was helpful, and thanks a lot for listening.